Join the Our Game Supporters Club at Patreon for €5 per month to get audio podcasts of the Hurling and Football Show and much more exclusive material. Hello, big news in Galway. I'm joined by David Connors of the Tuam Herald to talk all about it. Shane ONeill, he's departed as the Galway Senior Hurling Manager after 2 years. I'll just read out the statement first, David, and then I'll throw it to you. So Shane ONeill has confirmed that he will not be seeking to extend his term as Galway Senior Hurling Manager. Galway GAA would like to place on record its sincere thanks to Shane, John Fitzgerald, David Ford, Fergal Healy, Colin Callan, and the entire backroom team for their efforts over the past 2 seasons. Their commitment, dedication and professionalism since being appointed in November 2019 has been exemplary. And just to, you might as well get Shane's statement, because when we got Liam Cahill's statement last week that he was staying on with Waterford, there was a couple of little nuggets in there, but we'll read through this. I would like to express my sincerest gratitude to the Galway County Board and the Hurling Committee for their unwavering support throughout my tenure. I'm extremely grateful to them for their most professional and proactive approach to all matters related to the Galway Senior Hurling team. I wish to acknowledge and commend the efforts of each and every one of the members of the backroom team. You were too numerous to mention, but I must especially thank our management team of John Fitzgerald, Lucas Curzensteen, Fergal Healy, David Ford and Colin Callan. I would like to thank the players for their hard work and dedication. It was a special privilege to be involved with some of the greats of the game. I wish them every success in the future. And it goes on in that vein. But David, the big thing is, were we not expecting, like the talk was, that he was going to be staying for a third year?
Yeah, that seemed to be kind of the inkling I got as well, Shane. I suppose when I was just chatting to people over the last week, and I was kind of trying to get a nugget here and there in terms of where the situation stood, and I was led to believe that he kind of was perhaps seeking an extension to his 2-year deal. I was under the impression as well that he had to come back with a fresh backroom team. I believe there was a couple of issues there. Maybe perhaps the players weren't happy with certain personnel there, so that required change. But what my understanding was that the county board were going to give him, maybe a week or whatever to kind of go down through a list of candidates that he could bring in to kind of work alongside him. Now, I have no names or anything like that as to who he would have approached. But I'm a little shocked, to be honest with you. Not shocked that Shane is leaving or anything like that, but just the manner and the quickness of the whole thing. So I'm guessing from what you gather, putting it all together, would be that he obviously approached maybe a few people. Maybe perhaps they weren't interested in coming on board, and I think he would have had to get his management team through the county board, the hierarchy first, and then the clubs before he'd be ratified as well. So maybe he didn't have the belief at this point that the team that he'd been able to establish would have got through. So I'm guessing it looks at this point that he wouldn't have been happy with it, and he decided to pull plug for a finish.
Yeah, do you think in many ways, I mean, if that is the case, and just maybe the mood in the county after 2 seasons of, it hasn't been a roaring success, let's put it that way. A lot of people would have ranked Galway as number 2 coming into this season, thinking they had a right good chance. Now also Joe Canning has retired. So, there's the feeling of a rebuild. So it kind of nearly feels like it makes sense for him to depart at this point for all those reasons.
Yeah, and just on the results and the whole lot, definitely, I think that the 2 championship results were bitterly disappointing. And I think it's hard enough coming into a county as an outsider and a rookie inter-county manager, and I think support from the general public in particular had really changed. I think there was a lot of calls maybe for change and for Shane to step aside from supporters and for supporters in general. Now, I'm not sure entirely how the players would have felt, but my understanding as well would be that they wouldn't have been too disappointed if he was to stay on. I believe they liked him, but they wanted a change in the backroom team, and I think it was the players that would have been, requesting the change from that. But by and large, I think they were happy enough with Shane in a managerial sense. But other than that, I think results. It's a results games business, Shane. And when you're beaten by Dublin and you're beaten by Waterford and you're comprehensively beaten by Waterford too, don't let the late flurry overshadow things. It was a 14-man Waterford for the majority of it was for the entire second half. What am I saying? So and Galway really only hurled for 10 or 15 minutes down the closing straight. The fourth quarter really was where they got back into it. It could have been a lot worse result on that. And if Galway were to get anything out of it, it would have been completely undeserved. And the same from the Dublin game. So, on the balance of play, it probably was time to go. Now, saying that, there's not exactly a plethora of managers out there who are going to take it. I'm sure you're well aware of that in Tip as well.
Yeah.
You're really head scratching as to who could possibly come in. So that's the worrying thing. And you did mention it there. It is a massive rebuild at this point now. That's what the name of the game. A lot of lads with a lot of miles on the clock. It's going to be probably 2, 3, 4 years before Galway are genuine All-Ireland contenders at this point as well, by the looks of things. Given Joe's passing, I assume we might see one or two more maybe stepping aside before the championship or league kicks off next year as well. So there's that element too. I think we're holding their cards close to the chest to see who comes in, who possibly might be Shane's replacement, or whether Shane was to stay on in the first place.
Yeah, because the thing I'd say about Shane, and you hear this, whether it's his dealings with, he was involved with Waterford's DRA cases when they were trying to get Ty de Burke off that red card in 2017. Just the way he always comported himself with the Piercing, and even anytime I've been involved in interviewing him the last couple of years, there's a great, he seems a very dignified sort of guy, and I think he carried that throughout his tenure. So now the question is, who is next? And I see some comments in here. Red Lad T, hopefully Matty Kenny stays with Dublin. Now obviously I know Matty Kenny very well. I think he'd be a good man for the job. Only one man, Davy Fitz, says Patrick Hickey. Get Donoghue back, obviously Micheál Donoghue, or else Jeffrey Linsky. And Paul Young says Galway went backwards in the last 2 years. Joe Canning retiring, probably made up his mind. Davy for the job. So two people suggesting Davy for the job. And Micheál Donoghue mentioned, Matty Kenny mentioned, Jeffrey Linsky mentioned. Do you have a gut instinct of what's more likely?
I genuinely don't. I suppose if you were probably to go out on a limb, Donoghue would seem the obvious choice, but has the relations with the county board, the issues that were there, have they been repaired or can they be rectified? Because no one knows the group of players there better than Micheál and the management team that he would have had. But the other sense is, down with the Sheedy thing, can he get a last kick out of this group? Maybe he could possibly come in and get a last kick out of the fellas that are there that are the wrong side of 30 or approaching 30. On that, yeah, Matty Kenny, it obviously would have to be another one. But again, we don't know his agreement with Dublin. Is he really going to? We saw the draw for home is always, the obvious one, as we saw with Dean Cahill. There's no guarantee. He's probably pretty happy where he is in Dublin at the moment and what he's done with them over the last few years. Davy, I don't know. I don't see it as a runner, to be honest with you.
It nearly was before.
It nearly was before, yeah, absolutely. But I just don't know. I just don't know. It's stranger things have happened. It's the GEA, it's a managerial merry-go-round. But I just don't see it for some reason, Shane. I think it's a huge rebuild anyway. It's a job that, if you weren't going to go with Donoghue, the other person that would come in will have to do they'll have to do a decent gutting of the squad. We'll say maybe some of your leaders in there might no longer be the case. Other than that, Jeff Linsky, I don't think so either. Just the way the under-20s has played out over the last couple of years for him as well. It's fantastic success at minor, but he probably would have needed to deliver an All-Ireland at the under-20 level, and it just didn't happen for him. So other than
might
that,
have also put a few noses out of joint in terms of the dual issue, and you'd hear this, that county board, officials would be like, the way he's, as far as I know, that he was asking players, play hurling only, and then that might have put some people on the football board out, their noses out of joint, something like that.
Yeah, but in fairness, that didn't happen with this last year. The last couple of years, because Conor Flaherty was playing both. He was goalie for the under-20 footballers, and then he was centre back last year, and he was actually a sub this year. And then there was Owen Geraghty as well, would have been another one. So that had been mooted around the place, all right. But I think the evidence of the last year, in particular, the last couple of years, have kind of dispelled that notion a small bit. I think he had been a bit more, a bit more lenient in terms of working with both.
Yeah, okay, that's a fair point. Actually, there's another comment in here from G10, has to be a Galway man. Also references Ollie Canning. And are Galway the biggest underachievers the last 10 years? Should have won more. Derek McGrath maybe is what Paul Young is adding in. But you know what? And you can definitely follow up on any of those questions there. When you look across the board, Wexford, Tipperary, Galway, there's definitely a dearth of guys who've got the CV which says, sign me up right now. Because how many, generally you stand out at club level and then that's the path onto county management, ergo Shane O'Neill, Matty Kenny, and obviously, looks at the likes of Henry Shefflin there now. Everyone is like, obviously he'll step up to inter-county at some stage. There aren't that many. There aren't as many as there used to be, especially in Galway, where it just seemed to be an awful lot of options a few years back.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Like from the club scene, there's no, outstanding candidates really. I suppose Kevin Lally with St. Thomas's that they won 3 in a row, and he was training but he opted to step away to go train in the Galway minors this year. So it's that pathway isn't as clear coming straight in for club, but it's even elite inter-county club. And I said it to Shane O'Neill a couple of times. How did he find the step up? And he kind of played it down, and as in he was saying, he was working with an elite club in the Pearshik, and he was working with elite players, and they were elite club players. But at the end of the day, it's not the same. It's yourself from playing club. It's a million miles. Working an inter-county setup, it's all consuming. It's essentially 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's always something you have to be working out, and even you're getting texts here and there, and I'd imagine there's just a lot in it, and it's practically a full-time job now. Like I don't know how even he would have balanced his profession. Like it would have been a pretty taxing profession down on top of it, being a solicitor and working in the law industry, to try and come in and manage an inter-county team at the same time would have been really, really tough. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I see a couple of names there, like as in Derek McGrath and Ollie Canning. Like you genuinely at this point, it's like Shane O'Neill when he was appointed was completely out of left field. I don't think anyone really expected that he was going to make this, that he would have been the front runner initially. But it's going to be a very interesting couple of weeks. I know from speaking to people over this week that they were hoping to have the senior manager in by the end of September, which is 4 weeks away now. So it's going to be a hectic time considering they need to. The likelihood is they're going to need to appoint a new under-20 manager, which fair enough, it could be Brian Hanley, the minor manager, but then they need to appoint a minor manager as well. And you don't want to leave it too long, especially if it's going to be an outsider and someone who's probably not aware of Galway, because the club scene is in full flow. It's the weekend after next. It's kicking off underway. There's not a whole pile of games. It's only three rounds in the groups. Then you have preliminary knockouts, quarterfinals. It's pretty much ran off fairly quickly. So time is of the essence in terms of the hunt for the new manager for sure.
Yeah, just another comment in here from Kevin O'Donoghue. Loads of jobs up for grabs this year. A few teams going through transitions now as a result. So actually, you might be thinking Galway might take a step down the ladder in terms of the rankings, but maybe they'll shoot up because they're not the only one in that position. And then the other question, like some of the managers that you'd had, just back on the Galway club scene, then there's probably a lot of outside influence too compared with previously. Like Louis Mulqueen has been there, was Anthony Daly there with Sarsfields, and I'm not sure there are too many other. TJ Ryan was involved with St. Thomas's. I'm not sure, was he manager or was he part of the backroom team?
But more of a coach. More of a coach.
Yeah, so plenty of outside. And actually, another comment from Mossy Lyons. Wonder a manager saying to hell with it, as Limerick won it so easily last 2 years, so far ahead, they don't want to waste 2 years of their lives. I don't know if anyone that's got the ambition, I don't think that would put them off. Do you think? No,
I don't think so either. And they're huge opportunities, even, Tip and Galway and Wexford, they're massive opportunities at the moment as well. So there's that element of it as well. If you really want to cut it, you will. You know what I mean? It's there, and you've seen at times like there's no guarantee that these opportunities will come around when they actually display themselves. I know you were saying with Liam Cahill with Tip that might never appear again. So there's that element to it as well.
Yeah. Okay. Finally, to just your gut feeling now about where Galway are going before we finish up.
Certain All-Ireland next year, Shane. Just in the back pocket.
You're like myself. You're very worried because an awful lot of this just hinges simply on who gets appointed as the next manager. Because Tip could go this way or Tip could go that way. You just don't know, and it really does now more than ever. Maybe you do need the right man for the job. So should we leave it at that? So David Connors of the Tuam Herald, thanks very much for joining me.
Thanks, Chef.
Join the Our Game Supporters Club at Patreon for €5 per month to get audio podcasts of the Hurling and Football Show and much more exclusive material.